Hi. Oh, my meeting notes aren't here. So my name's Hannah. You've done my introduction for me. I'm currently at Gain Capital, who look after City Index, Forex.com, and FinSpreads, which is a online trading platform. So if there's anyone from IG in the room, it's... No? Okay, that's good. I'm not going to talk about them anyway, so I'm actually going to be talking about a former company that I worked for called Nielsen Financial Services. So we actually owned two brands. One was Smart Insurance and one was British Seniors. And if you know anything about brand infringement and trademarks, those are not the names to give yourself when you want to protect your brands. So I'm going to talk to you about a journey that we took around brand protection and brand enforcement, as we actually coined it, because it was a sort of multifaceted campaign that was to protect our brands and to ultimately drive us more of our brand traffic. I'm a big data geek, by the way, so my PowerPoint presentation skills will show through in this. So there were three goals. Firstly, harvest demand. Harvest demand isn't just about being in position number one. You actually want considered clicks. You actually want people to, you want your ad to stand out, and you want to compete against other ads that are being served. So the number one thing for us was about driving click-through rate. It's not always about doing it at the lowest CPC. It's about maximizing that demand and harvesting that demand. And that was a big battle for us to go and fight, I want to say, with our board and with our directors, because there was an appreciation for, well, why are we spending so much more on brand? Like, our brand CPCs are through the roof. And I'm going, yeah, but we're getting more of that demand through. That CPC number doesn't matter if you're driving more click-throughs. And we were looking at a very linear attribution. So it was really important for us to explain to the business that you have to be thinking about how you are harvesting demand at all times. And I was quite lucky in that I worked for a business that had been born out of a media model, which was spend loads on DRTV. Spend loads on DRTV and harvest that demand. So there weren't really any other channels that were in the mix when I first started. I have to say I did bring some new channels in as head of digital there. I didn't just do this. So we were in that real luxury of being able to really see a correlation between what you spend on TV, the spot that you spent it on, and how many impressions and how many clicks and visits you were driving from that spend, which is a marketeer's dream, because that makes attribution much, much simpler. So we were seeing that search and we were measuring actually impressions rather than just visits through to the website. So that cost per impression became a metric that we brought into the business, and we really empowered, because it wasn't just about the ultimate clicks and the conversions you were driving at the end. It was about the whole funnel working together. Which brings me to my next point, which is harvesting demand efficiently. So efficiency doesn't always mean cost. Efficiency actually means it means harvesting the maximum amount of demand that you can. And the third point is protecting your brands. And actually, this comes a little bit later in the journey for us. When we first brought on Adthena, it was really about thinking about the brand and how we needed to protect our trademarks, we needed to stop people bidding on our brands, and it was all about our sort of brand consideration. And we're a new brand in the market. We can't be seen to be not present on our brand terms, and the damage that would do to the long-term reputation of the brand. But there was a very real need for us to think about the spend that we're putting on TV and how we're maximising the number of conversions we're getting from that spend. And then we can work out how we're going to build our brands and how we're going to build all of our different acquisition channels. This is where my data geek comes out. So we were really looking at how we could attribute our brand protection strategy. On the top here, you see our PPC brand click-through rate. Our click-through rate, and by the way, these are all made-up numbers. I don't work there anymore, so I can't share exact numbers. So you've got your PPC brand click-through rate there. If we were getting a brand click-through rate of 30%, we were paying £2 CPC. Our brand CPA was £20. Happy days. As the head of digital, I can go, I've done my job. We've got good CPCs, we've got good brand CPA, but I'm not considering what we're actually spending on the TV that's driving those brand clicks. So you go, okay, let's see how this actually works. When you improve your brand click-through rate, and bearing in mind you've got the SEO click-through rate combined with that, when you improve your brand click-through rate, and you have brands that are called British Seniors and Smart Insurance, you will pay a much higher CPC. We were a new brand in the market. We were getting a hell of a lot of competition on our brands. We're spending big on TV. The likes of Sun Life, Fever, they're all just going to, take us to the cleaners because they can bid on our terms, they can use our trademark terms in their ad copy, and they can just capitalise on our traffic because they're a more reputable brand. Not reputable, more well-known. So what we actually said is, I said, okay, let's just, instead of going after position 1, which we were doing, let's actually try and clean up the SERP, and let's actually try and go for click-throughs. And there's many different ways that Adthena has helped us do that. So when you're looking at the SEO click-through rate, if I change that SEO click-through rate to static at 10%, so say you're still maintaining your 10% click-through rate on SEO, which would be horrendous, but if you're still maintaining a 10% click-through rate on SEO, the net effect of that is that your total CPA, once you combine your media spend, your PPC clicks, your SEO clicks, your direct visits, means that actually the total number of visits that you're driving against that marketing spend, although it's more, so for 900 visits you've paid 110,000, the more conversions you're getting mean that you're actually getting a lower CPA at the end. And I appreciate a lot of people in here are digital marketers, and this is like teaching people to suck eggs when you talk about attribution. But it's a very real conversation that happens in a lot of businesses, and it's a very real, it's a very quick win for businesses to be able to drive more efficiency from the brand traffic that you've spent potentially years investing, potentially 50 years investing in. So how we actually used Adthena to do this. First was monitoring brand search. So of course you want to know what your share of voice is, what your impression share is, what your positions are, what your click-through rate looks like, and you want to relate that back to CPCs. And there's also a little bit of comfort in being able to in being able to assess your agency and what they're telling you is actually true. Sorry, agencies that are in the room. So brand infringements aren't just in the SERP. They're in landing pages, they're in URLs, they're in websites. If I was able to show you what brand infringement used to look like in the brands I used to work for, you would be horrified, as I was. So it was really about understanding who's bidding on the brands, what copy they're using in the brands, and ultimately are they using our trademarks. This created, as you can imagine, a lot of competitive pressure. We suffered significantly in our CPCs. Our CPCs went up 500% over the course of our first 2 years of trading because everyone's jumping on the brand terms. So it makes it look like digital is becoming less and less efficient. And competitors love to capture some low-hanging fruit if you've spent a lot of money in the market. So a big part of what we used Adthena for was Google and Bing reporting. So as was spoken about earlier, you have the ability to screenshot and actually demonstrate to the board how many people are bidding on the brand terms and explaining in the simplest way that more competition means more costs for everybody. And it's like I said, it's a very real conversation that happens in a lot of businesses, but there are reasons for it, and it's not necessarily that you should be optimizing to your CPCs. And then we actually embarked on a program of not just reporting to Google and Bing, but actually getting the legal team who worked with Interflora and issuing legal cease and desist letters. And for a business of our size, which was a call centre in Slough, had about 30 agents, seemed a little bit ludicrous. But actually, when you think about how much money we were saving from issuing these legal cease and desist letters and being able to have the evidence that Adthena provide, I'll come on to the results in a second, but it was invaluable to the business in how we were able to protect the brand in the long term and the benefit they're going to see for years to come in actually being able to clean up that SERP. The other thing that was obviously used for is competitor insight. I won't go too much into that because it's been spoken about a lot already today. But really understanding how what keywords competitors are bidding on, how they protect their own brands, how they're able to own the SERP, and really how we were able to build our whole SEM strategy around brand protection. So the results, the good stuff. So we actually managed to, and these numbers are staggering, I appreciate that, but they are real. We reduced the number of brand infringers by 93%. When I started, we were in the region of 50 to 80 different trademark infringers on our brand. Again, if you're called Smart Insurance, then you're sort of asking for it. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. The next thing was we actually recovered £140,000 per month in lost customer revenue. So we were really looking at the data and saying, do you know what, that little improvement in click-through rate that we got actually meant that we got, 100 more customers a month from those brand clicks. We actually built our brand authority, which meant we got more SEO clicks. It just meant we got more clicks overall, and the reputation of the brand was greater. What we didn't want to have was, and what was definitely happening, is we were getting sometimes a decent click-through rate, but people would click away because there's a brand underneath us that says special offer on life insurance, best price around, and they're beating us on price. So you're getting those clicks, but then you're just losing them again later. And we managed to reduce our CPCs in the long term by 30%. At first, it wasn't about that. At first, for me, it was about having that conversation about click-through rate over CPC. But the long-term strategy was to work with Adthena and work on our brand protection and be able to, in the long term, improve our CPCs with our quality score and by removing infringers on our brand terms. And as I will always say, click-through rates increased from 30% to 55% on PPC brand, which is an absolutely massive improvement. It just shows you how much these sorts of programs can really improve your brand efficiency. And that is me. If anyone has any questions. Hi.
Were there ever any conversations about changing the brand, coming up with a more online-friendly
Every day. Mainly from me. Yeah, I mean, we managed to get Smart Insurance trademarked and British Seniors, the actual word, trademarked, which was no mean feat. But when you're a startup and you're going into a really competitive industry, have your trademarks sorted before you start going into Google. I think that's a lesson learned. But yeah, it's a balance between having a brand name that feels like it's been around for a long time, and one that you're going to be able to protect with trademarks. But I would always go down the trademark route from now on. Any more? No? Thank you.